Hi everyone,
and welcome to another episode of ITT Podcast, which stands for In This Together Podcast. Our podcast is our honest take on relationships, love, and marriage, with the aim of sharing our views and experiences for you to take from it whatever you need.
So whether you're single, dating, in a relationship, or happily married, there is something in it for you.
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Today's episode is called Spin the Block. Should you ever go back to an ex?
Okay. Should you?
Yeah, so we are going to be talking about when it's ever okay to go back to an ex, when we think it's never okay to go back to an ex, what the potential benefits could be, what the risks you're taking are, and we're going to talk a bit more about some of the tactics that you could take
can deploy.
if you need to go back to it, if you need to go back. But yeah. So we're going to kind of just delve into a bit. So why are we talking about this topic today?
You tell me, Noria. I'm not sure why we're talking about it
you
today.
always say this.
But no, I don't always say this, but this topic specifically, I'm not sure why we're talking about it.
It makes it seem like it's just me.
No, I'm joking. Okay, look,
I'm not happy.
Okay, why are we talking about it? I mean, you know more about what's happening in the social media than I do, so enlighten me. I've heard some stories about, some celebrity couples getting back together. So
So as part of the research for our podcast, we try to stay current with what's going on with relationships and things like that. So I wanted to talk about it because a popular celebrity couple has recently recoupled in Ashanti and Nelly. Ashanti is a R&B singer from the early 2000 era, and Nelly's a rapper from the same era. And they still are both very relevant in R&B and rap today, hip-hop, or should I say hip-hop today. But this recoupling, it seems to be all the rage. Like, everybody's keeping up with it. Everyone wants to know whether or not it's going to work this time round. And I think it's kind of reignited conversations about going back to your ex. Like, there's a lot of people who are happy about them getting back together. There's a lot of people who are not happy about them getting back together. So
really?
I thought it's a good topic to talk about in terms of not about Ashanti and Nelly, but it's a good opportunity to explore whether or not going back to an ex is ever a good idea.
Yeah.
I also think Birdman and Toni Braxton may have gotten back together as well.
Really?
Who were quite a unusual couple.
I wasn't sure if they were dating.
I think there was a post about the two of them getting back together. I don't know. I'm not as social media clued up as other people might be, but so I think Birdman and Toni Braxton have gotten back together as well. I mean, who knows if they actually really did break up as well. I don't know. I think their one is a bit more rumor filled than anything, but so this is a great opportunity to talk about, should you ever go back to an ex? So first of all, spin the block. Urban Dictionary defines that as going back to an ex, when you go back to an ex.
That's straightforward.
Yeah. There's other connotations to do with spin the block, which is not what we're talking about, which we're not even going to go into, because that's a whole different, gang life scenario. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about spin the block when you go back to an ex. All right,
well, let's get right to it then.
Let's
get into it.
Stop it, Frank. Why are you acting like a news anchor?
What? All I'm saying is,
let's get right into it. Okay, so the first question I would like to ask you is, do you think it's ever okay to go back to an ex? Ever?
It depends. That would be my initial response. It depends. It depends on the situation. It depends on the circumstances. If both parties are still single, then yeah.
What do you define as an ex?
Someone that you were with before.
Is there a time frame on it?
Oh, that's a good one.
Because I was going to say, another reason why I think we should discuss it is because I feel like this applies to our relationship. I feel like our relationship had a spin the block scenario in it.
I don't think so.
You don't?
I don't think so. There was never... Well, you can elaborate later on why you think that and why I didn't think so. But
why? Why do you not think so? I mean, that's why I'm asking you, because I think there's a definition thing here. Because do you think there's a time frame when someone could be considered an ex? Or anytime you break up?
There is a time frame, because if you had a disagreement with someone you're with, and out of anger, one of you says, well, let's just break up then. And then the other one agrees, okay then. And then within a week, 2 weeks, you're back together. Is that really a breakup? I don't think so.
You don't think it is?
I don't think so.
So we were on the break.
A breakup.
You're Ross, basically.
A breakup is two people coming to an amicable agreement to say, yeah, this is not working. When there is no anger involved and say, look, let's just go our separate way. I still feel this about you. I still feel that about you, but we're just not working.
So in that scenario, is there a time frame then? What if you guys came to that amicable, yeah, sorry, it's just not working, and then a week later you're back together? Are they an ex? Because if you're saying, well, it's more about the way you broke up.
I think in that scenario, that is your ex. Because if you think about it, when that happens, you often find that people have already explored other options, even though it's a week.
Oh dear.
People are quick. Yeah, some people are quick. You find that, wow, okay, I only said we should break up 2 days ago. You already see someone.
I mean, this is so Ross and Rachel from Friends. So we were on a break, or we were not on a break, but that's a break. Well,
that's a break. That's what I'm saying.
A break is different.
Even though this is what I'm saying. Sometimes it's the circumstances. Like,
that
if you both agree. Because sometimes if I say to you, no, it's not going to work, and you be like, yeah, well, I agree. You just agree with what I'm saying out of anger. But if it's something that you both come to an agreement on, put it this way, I think an ex is, you break up with someone, the other person has moved on, or one of you has moved on. They're now your ex. I don't think they are your ex if you're still both single.
That's interesting.
Unless you then add the time frame, say it's now 6 months. Or 3 months. That's quite long.
And that sounds like a bigger time frame.
If one person moves, in my head, because I see things very weirdly, but as soon as one person moves on, they start dating other people, you've now become an ex. They're now an ex. They're now your ex.
Yeah, but so that's why I'm saying, why would you say that didn't happen with us? Because we broke up for a good 3 weeks.
Yeah, but you were not seeing anyone.
I went on a date.
Why would you do that?
But you know that. You know I went on a date. If I went on a date, then that means I was dating someone else.
You went on a date.
Okay, so you think that's different?
You were not seeing someone else.
True.
Because you could be seeing someone for 3 months. That would have made me an ex at that time.
So you don't want that ex title. You were not.
No. For me,
Frank says nope.
Me, the way I see it is like we were having issues that we couldn't resolve. So we parted.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You dated someone, fine. I didn't see anyone. But after dating that person, we came back together.
Yeah.
So that's not an ex situation.
Okay.
That's a break.
That's
in my head. Yeah. Take a break. Yeah. That's how I see it. Take a break
and cool off and rejoin. Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you see it like that as a guy, because I think women see it a bit differently.
I'm sure they do.
Because for me,
I'm sure you do.
We were broken up. I don't see it as a break, because for me at that time there was no we might be getting back together, or because I think for me, because it depended on your actions, to me we were broken up. Yeah. But maybe because you felt as a man that, okay,
I need to get you back.
Yeah, this depends on my actions. So you felt like this is just a break.
Yeah. Even when you told me that you had gone on a date, that did not matter to me.
Yeah.
Because I just saw it as that was just you trying
to move on.
Trying to, fill your time. Not move on, but you're trying to fill your time by going on a date. I was like, that's cool. You get something to eat, we'll be back.
I can't.
But I guess both sexes see it differently, and this is probably will be an issue. Yeah, because men are thinking, how are you just gonna move on?
Yeah,
it was just a break. We just had an argument. Whereas in a woman's head, it's a clean cut.
Yeah.
We're breaking up. To a man, it's no. We just
and maybe it's not necessarily a woman or a man. Maybe it's the person that decided that we're going to break up.
That's
so
true.
Whoever did the thing.
That's a good point.
So just to elaborate, in our situation there was no serious issue. There wasn't any cheating or anything like that, but we were having issues about communication, and I was getting really fed up with it, and we had a big argument, and I was like, right, this is just the last time.
It's not going to work.
And then we just broke up, and Frank was like, yeah, fine, whatever kind of thing. And I feel like in your head, you were like, okay, when I cool off, when she cools off, we're going to try and fix things. And when he kind of tried to do that, because I was so upset about the fact that, no, this keeps happening and this communication thing is a big issue, I was like, no, we're not getting back together. So even though he was kind of like, okay, we should be trying to get back together by now, surely we've cooled off. And I was like, no, we're not. To me, we were actually broken up. And to him, he was like still trying to like fix it, right? The roles could have been reversed. And so maybe it's not necessarily because I'm a woman and you're a man. Maybe if I was the one in that situation trying to convince my man that, you know,
you probably would have seen it differently.
Yeah, I might have been like, we're not broken up. And then you might have taken another girl on a date and you would have been like, do you know what I mean? So maybe it's more about that situation because, you know, in that situation, it's like, unfortunately, Frank was in the wrong. And he was like, yeah, well, let's see what, like, you know, what's good. Whereas I'm kind of like, well, I'm moving on. But luckily, it was just one date. I think if I had really started dating that person properly, would you still have carried on, like, trying to...
Yeah, for a period of time. Okay. Like, it wouldn't have been something that I would have just carried on. If I keep on trying, you know, for a couple more weeks... You were adamant that no, it's not going to work, then
then cool.
Just called it.
But it was just one date, and there was nothing like serious with that person. But
that's live and exclusive for you guys. No one else knows this apart from the two of us, so we're letting you guys into some deep secret.
That's not a deep secret. Whatever, it was a date.
That's exclusive. So subscribe, like, follow.
Oh, whatever. Subscribe. It's not that serious, but so I just wanted to define X because I know people have different definitions, and I think for me it is about, I agree with you, you know, did you have a clean cut break where you both amicably agreed? Did it stem from some sort of disagreement where you're both kind of being hard-headed and you both want to work things out but you're not really making the first move? Or is one of you adamant that it's over while the other person's trying to get the other one back? So it really does depend on the dynamics. But
if it's a case of, you know, you guys split and no one's trying, then you're leading towards the X path because it's like,
especially if you're then dating someone else and dating other people.
Exactly.
Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, we know what spin the block means. We discussed in what scenario you would be considered an X. Yeah. So let's just clarify. For me, it's when you as a person believe that that person is no longer your partner or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, and you are now thinking about dating other people, and you're in that mindset, and you might even already be dating other people. What about for you?
For me, an X is when you've both agreed that it's not going to work and you've both just gone your separate ways. Neither one of you is trying to get the other one back. You're not trying to make it work at all. There is no effort in that sense. Then you become an X. Even if you're not dating anyone, you're just not trying. Time is just
you're both. But in that case, there needs to be a significant amount of weeks. Then maybe 2-3 weeks,
even longer than that. I'll say a month, 2 months sometimes. Because within that time, a lot can still happen.
Fair enough. Fair point. Okay, so I asked you, do you think it's ever okay to go back to an ex? And you said it depends.
Yeah, it depends. It depends on the circumstances. It depends if things have changed. It depends on if both parties are willing to make it work this time. And first of all, you both have to be single to make it work. Don't force your partner or your ex to break someone's heart because, you know, you want to get back together. You know, you could be ruining something good that he's just found, or something good that she's just found. You know, because you're selfish, or you're because you want he or she back. So that's that. For me, there's a slight, I wouldn't say a risk, but there's a slight, you know, that's a caveat there for you. But I think when you ask when is it okay to go back to your ex, it depends if the situation is right, because the reason why you broke up in the first place needs to be resolved. If you're both willing to resolve that issue or issues, then yes, you can.
So for me, should you ever go back to an ex? I also think it depends, but I think like an ex with a long time frame, my answer is actually no. But I would say it depends, because technically when me and you kind of had our 2-week, 3-week break up, I considered you an ex at that time, because that's why I even went on a date. So to me, you were an ex, but we got back together because there wasn't that much of a time frame between it. But I think if you were with someone like a year 2 years, 3 years. Obviously, you've both definitely moved on.
That's a really good point.
To me, I don't condone that. I don't want to say I don't condone that because it's not that serious, but I think
it is that serious though.
I'm not.
That's quite a strong point.
Yeah, I don't think you should.
I don't think you should in that sense. When you put it like that, if it's been like a year, 2 years, I really don't think you should.
Oh, but you did say it depends. And I guess some people will be like, come on, what about if you're both single? What's wrong with going back to an ex? What's wrong with, why can't you spin the block? But I feel like if a significant amount of time has passed, or maybe I'm being harsh, maybe it really does just depend, because maybe you two have really grown. Maybe you're really in a different space in your lives. I'm being harsh.
You could give it a try. I think you could have like a trial period. You get back together. It may not be official, but this could form the tip on things we'll talk about later. But I think it really depends. But you would think, as a woman, you think, why let that time frame go? Why wait that long to try?
For me, it's a no. It's a no. And this is why I have to be clear on this podcast, because I'm not someone that, just because for me something is a no, I think for everybody it should be a no. And I think that's where I'm kind of conflicted right now, because I'm like, should you ever go back to an ex when it's been a long time? For me, no, I wouldn't go back to you. I don't care how much you've grown. By the time we're talking 2 years, a year, even just a year, I wouldn't go back to you, because I feel like I'm wasting years. Like, I'm like, what if we have another year of that?
Yeah.
And then, nah, for me, if it's taken you a year, 2 years to come back to me, you weren't mine. I just think it's too much.
That's a good point.
But that's personal, and maybe that's because of the way I kind of view relationships. And I was very intentional when I was dating. When I was in my 20s, I was like, I'm dating to get married. So I'm thinking of 21, 22-year-old Nuria with a boyfriend that she had, maybe a year ago. And now he wants to come back. I don't think I would take him back, because I think by that time I would have grown and kind of moved on. And I never felt like I should be taking anybody back. And I'm thinking about marriage. I'm thinking about the future. So if it didn't work then, I wouldn't take the risk, because I'm going to feel like it's just not going to work again, because the time frame is just like crazy to me, right?
Yeah.
But that's a personal thing. On the flip side, I can see why some people would spin the block and go back to an ex, because maybe time has passed, you've had other relationships, and you're like, you know what, this was the right person, and when you both feel that way and you're both single, what's wrong with giving it another try?
Yeah.
I am not one of those people. I just have to acknowledge that and be enough. Like, I'm just not one of those people. And so maybe for me, that's why for me, when Ashanti and Nelly got back together, and I must say, I'm not hating on their relationship. I hope it works. They were together for a long time. I think they're a really cute couple. And they were really cute in the 2000s where we were young, like seeing them dating and stuff. But I really like Ashanti. I think she's a real cool woman. I don't dislike Nelly, but I don't have any specific feelings towards Nelly. And I feel like Ashanti deserves so much, and I feel like I feel like she might be wasting even more time. So I'm not one of the people that actually I'm not chuffed about it. I hope it works.
Well, let's explore just a little bit of why you feel that she might be wasting a bit more time. Is it I says there's something around commitment then, because it's a case of like
speak on it.
They were dating before for quite a long time. There wasn't anything official, like proposal and marriage, so you feel like this second time round is just and
this is the thing. I have to say, I don't know Ashanti. Just because I like Ashanti doesn't mean I know her. I don't know who she is in terms of what she wants out of her life. I don't know if she wants marriage and kids and stuff. So I'm kind of projecting a bit. I'm thinking of myself as Ashanti. I would want marriage and kids. I would want that commitment. And I've always said that about relationships. I feel like, what's the point of a relationship if we're not going to have that proper commitment? So for me, it's about commitment. So let me just put that out there, make that clear. So for me, with it being about commitment, me projecting and thinking like, well, if I was Ashanti, I would be wanting commitment, because why am I with you? I feel like she didn't get the level of commitment she deserved the first time round. So I'm like, so why do you think you're going to get it the second time round?
Okay.
And then on top of that, I'm like, the amount of effort you're going to have to put for it to work the second time round, it needs to come with a commitment from the outset.
Yeah, okay,
that's how I feel.
okay,
And not like a proposal from the outset, but I'm saying I need to, in the first
just to be a next level.
Yeah, we need to be on a different level. We can't pick up where we left.
Like step up.
Yeah. So to me, okay, maybe they date for like 2, 3, 4 months, and then they take it to the next level and it's serious. He proposes or whatever. But I'm kind of like, do you know that it's going to that level of commitment? Because if not, what if he just wastes another like 2, 3 years of your life? And she's a bit older now. I think she's 40 or almost 40, if not already 40. She's almost 40, and that's not old. I mean, trust me, she looks amazing, and Nelly still looks good for his age as well. So it's not really about an age thing, but it's about the fact that as a woman, I feel like I prioritize commitment, and if I'm with you and you couldn't commit to me last time, this time, I don't know if I'm going to put 100%. Yeah. And I feel like a relationship deserves 100%.
I agree,
Do you know what I mean?
So, I'm sure Nelly will commit. I'm sure he will.
Our podcast has become Nelly and Ashanti analysis. He will
commit. I've seen some posts and he looks
ready
like
to commit.
He's business now. So EI.
Yeah, but I'm talking not EI. But I'm not talking commitment in terms of a child, though, because I know he recently posted something about he's trying to get her.
That was he was just messing around.
I hope he's messing around. I hope he's messing around.
Well, if that happens, then he better marry her. Then, do you understand?
That's a very Nigerian way of thinking.
Well, yeah, make it happen.
Nigerian tradition is like
make it happen.
Culture is like, oh, you get someone pregnant, you're marrying them now. Yeah. But well. It's not always like that, but
let's not let it get to that.
But I don't know. I mean, they're both grown. Ashanti might not even want to get married. Ashanti might not even want kids. So, like I'm saying, this is not analysis of Ashanti and Nelly's relationship. It's just using that as a catalyst to have this conversation.
Yes.
And for me, I know that if I was at that age, I would want kids. I would want commitment. And I mean, I think Nelly will. I don't know. And this is my kind of skeptic of not going back to exes. I don't know whether or not he will commit, and there's nothing that he's doing that's making me feel like he will commit.
Yeah,
that's just how I see it.
That's a good point. But you have to trust the person, the person's judgment, because the fact that they're back together, she knows a lot that we don't know.
Of course, 100%.
And it's like you said that you don't know her, you don't know what she was. So it's a case of, we're looking at it from the outside.
Absolutely.
So, you're saying that people have done that and it's not worked, and it's like, they made a bad judgment. But we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and
hopefully, fingers crossed for them.
Fingers crossed.
It's a success.
And I hope it is.
Because I think they suit each other. They really do. They really suit each other.
They're a cute couple, and they're part of our like young years, our 2000s. So trust me, I hope it does work out. And to be honest, I root for any relationship. Like
we do.
Anytime two people get together and they're like, oh, we really like it, I'm rooting for them. I'm not here like couple goals or relationship goals. I don't really do couple goals because I respect the fact that you really don't know what's going on in people's relationship. I don't really look up to.
No,
we don't tend to look up to any couple like that. No. But we do like to see people happy and people together
we do.
And in relationships. So I'm rooting for them. I'm rooting for anybody in a relationship.
All right. Moving on.
So, when is it okay to go back to an ex? For me, never.
For me,
a serious ex where years has passed, never. But I can understand why people do it. And I think that sometimes it's okay. It works.
But for it to work, things have to have changed from the last time.
We'll get into that. We'll get into how can you go back to, what should happen when you do go back to an ex, because we do want to talk about that as well. When is it not okay to go back to an ex?
When it was toxic the last time. If it was toxic the last time, it's not okay. It doesn't matter if it's a year, 2 years, like, you just don't go back.
What is toxic to you?
Like,
because weren't we just talking about growth and change, and so
but the question is when
is it not okay
to go back to you? Yeah, your ex maybe try to get you back, but if the last experience was a terrible one, then it's not okay to go back.
Okay, so you're saying basically, if a relationship broke up because it just wasn't working, but it was a good relationship.
Yeah, but there was some toxic trait to it.
No, you're saying if it was a good relationship, you can go back. But you're saying if it was a toxic relationship,
one, yes,
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
You shouldn't go back.
If he or she is trying to get the other person back, just don't. Yeah.
Well, what if time has passed and you're like, oh no, but it's like, what are you basing it on? A toxic relationship? Yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if time has passed, he's saying is improved or no, but that memory, that will always be there.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I just wouldn't do it.
But then what do you define as a toxic relationship? Because there's always bad moments and there's good moments, and sometimes people are young.
No, a toxic relationship is a toxic relationship now. Like if there's more bad than good, if it's like, there's more downs and ups, there's all the time is a mixture, there's never any consistency, it's always like,
what kind of stuff do you consider toxic in a relationship?
Violence, abuse, those type of things. Obviously those are like the extreme, but even things like gaslighting and stuff, constantly.
You stay gaslighting me. Don't try it. Gaslighting is too vague a term because we accidentally gaslight each other.
Yeah,
as people.
but with love.
Gaslight with love. I can't.
With a heart, with an emoji
like,
heart.
I gaslight you, but I love you. No,
No, but
gaslighting is too no. Gaslighting is something that I don't think is a toxicity, because I think we do it as human beings.
Sometimes we don't even know that we're doing it.
Yeah,
that's
so
another thing. So maybe.
But social media is making gaslighting a proper toxic trait.
No, but
I feel like it depends on if it's consistent.
Yeah, if it's exactly, that's what I'm trying to say though. If it's consistent, like if there's no affection, no love, it's just consistent
gaslighting, and then you're telling them about it and they're not changing.
Exactly. And then when you take that and then you add possibly physical abuse or verbal abuse, you add that to it. That's
it's about the extremity of it.
Yeah.
Cheating, another toxic relationship.
Exactly.
Regular cheating, like if you care about your man or your woman cheating and you've expressed that's a big deal to you, and then you're in a relationship where you're constantly dealing with cheating and you don't want to constantly deal with cheating, then that's toxic.
Yeah.
Because what are you going back for? Who's telling you that they've changed? Well, they're telling you that they've changed, but
so
it wasn't.
Yeah. So my point is, in that kind of environment, it's absolute no.
Yeah, I agree. It's about the toxicity level. It's about I think for me, there's additional ones, like if they're already in a relationship with someone else, don't go back to your ex. And you said that as well, like don't necessarily go and break up something that's happening.
Exactly.
As a woman, I would add for me, also if they've had a child with someone else in the meantime.
Yeah.
Because I'm not about that life.
That's additional drama. That's future drama.
Yeah, I'm not about that life. We know how I feel about that. So, if they've then had another child, even if they're not with that person and they've gone and had a child and they got a baby mother situation, I wouldn't go back to you.
Yeah. Avoid that.
Yeah. And I think it's best to avoid that, because then you're just you're stepping into a whole different family dynamic.
True.
At least be aware. I mean, if you are trying to go back and that's the situation and you think that's okay, remember, this is our opinion.
This is our opinion.
This is how I see it. So it's not.
How we see it.
Yeah. I would also add, if they're in another relationship, if they have a child with someone else, I also don't think it's appropriate to go back to your ex, like you said, when there's toxicity, gaslighting and stuff like that. But I also think when there's a significant amount of time that's passed, I just wouldn't do it.
Because you don't know what's happened with that person during that time.
Yeah. And it could be positive,
but a psychopath.
Come on. You can meet someone new and they're a psychopath.
True. That's true.
For me, long times is just a no-go. I just wouldn't spin the block. No way. Also not, I think there's also another one with not, and I think is if there's a situation as well with the family where maybe what happened between you guys and the breakup affected your families, and now your family, you don't get on with their family. I think in that case, try not to spin the block, because because I think it's really hard to be with someone who your family doesn't like, and I think it's hard to be with someone when you're not liked by their family. If they're quite, some people don't even know their family or not close to their family, but if their family is part of their life, and maybe your breakup caused their mum not to like you, or drama, or the sisters to hate you, just leave it alone.
Yeah, I agree.
Or the brothers to hate you.
I agree with that. Yeah.
So that's our opinion on that. But what are the benefits of going back to an ex? If you did actually go back to your ex?
I think for me, the main benefit will be you already know that person. It's something you already know.
The devil you know.
Yeah,
the devil you know.
I don't like that saying, but yeah, it's something like that. I think that's the benefit of it. That's the only benefit.
You think that's the only?
I think so. I think that's the only benefit. I don't see.
Yeah, because you know that person. You know what the issues were. You know what you're working on. You know what's good. You know what's not good.
Yeah, but
what other benefits? There must be other benefits. God dang, there's no other benefits.
I can't think of any. Can you?
Wow, that's nuts. I think another benefit could be the fact that you're coming into it both knowing that you're actually trying to make it work. So I think there's a potential for there to be a greater effort.
Yes, that's true.
Because both of you might have this thing where you don't want to fail twice.
That's true. Another way of looking at it, it feels like you have both exited and looked at the relationship from the outside.
Yeah, at least you should have.
So you've detached yourself from it because you've now broken up and you've now had time to analyze what had gone through. Because when you're in it, sometimes you there's no way you can analyze it.
That's true.
But when you remove yourself from that situation, you have a clearer picture of it. You know, for the both of you to have agreed to come back together, it means that, like you said, you're both willing to make it work. You're both willing to. You've both analysed it and know what you need to do now to make it work better. So I think...
Yeah, and you're not going to get that from a new relationship because you don't know what you're dealing with.
Exactly.
That's true, because at least now you have the benefit of hindsight. Like, okay, well, we now know that what didn't work was this, and so this is where we need to put all our effort.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, knowing that person, so you can just... Sometimes it's like you can pick up when you left off.
Yeah.
They love flowers, so you know you can just be buying them flowers. You know what you two like. Yes, they might.
It might be easier to. It might actually be easier to pick back up with an ex than to start fresh
with someone new. Yeah, so that's a potential benefit. Yeah. And also, like, even on the family and friends tip, you also already know that.
You guys are back together. Oh, I've always liked Darren. Oh,
not Darren. Yeah, and I guess like. You might also have people, if people did like your relationship, you might have people rooting for you guys this time around. So like the whole Ashanti and Nelly thing, they probably have a lot of support this time around in the form of friends and family and stuff, because everybody's like, come on, you guys can do it.
You can do it. Yeah.
But what are the risks and the negatives? First of all, that whole go on and do it, come on guys, could be some serious pressure.
Yes.
So all of those benefits could flip as negatives in the sense that now you feel like you have to make it work.
Because everyone from both sides like the other person.
Yeah, everybody's looking at you guys like, are you guys messing around again?
I know it could be added pressure, and then there's the pressure not to fail, which could strain the relationship.
Yeah. Yeah, and because of that, you can end up having, rose-tinted glasses in the relationship because you're trying to like paint everything through a perfect lens. You're trying to, you're ignoring red flags.
And there's a huge risk that you end up staying when if it's it's not working out.
That's right.
Yeah, because you're trying to please everyone.
So that's a risk.
Yeah, that's a big risk.
Another like potential disadvantage or risk is that
old habits.
Die hard.
That's a huge risk.
Die hard.
That's we're all humans. We're all humans.
Yeah. So. You might even find yourself, babe. You might even find yourself slipping back into behaviors that you thought you had actually grown past because maybe that person pulls out such a negative from you.
That's a very good point.
So you might be like, oh, I'm so chill now. I'm so zen. I meditate nowadays. I don't scream. I don't shout.
And then you get with that person. You're smashing pots. Throwing glasses everywhere.
You're throwing cushions.
I know.
You know what I mean? You could find yourself going back to old habits.
That person could be the trigger.
Yeah.
Trigger.
That's the word. The trigger. That's a risk. You have to, and I guess it's what you said about, what kind of relationship were you having before. You have to analyze what are you going back into.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a case of you might not experience the relationship in that way. It might not. You might not actually be like that anymore, and then you are not toxic and you are not angry and throwing things.
That's true.
But I think you need to be alert to that as a risk. So when you get into that, you need to be like, right, so let me look out for this, because if this ish comes back, let's just call it quits from now. Like,
that's a good point.
You know, you find yourself screaming, or you find yourself going through his phone every minute, like you already know that, oh, we're back at this point. End it early. That's the flag. Maybe that's your warning, you know. So there are definitely risks. The risk is also that, you know, like I was saying about people having moved on, they've got more relationships under their belt now, and that could be a positive, but it could be a negative in that now there's like other ex-girlfriends that can impact your relationship. You know, you've got the risk of life happens and now you've got to take them as they are with additional stuff.
That's true.
Additional baggage. They might even have been in other relationships.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's a big risk. And sometimes they may not have ended of a relationship. They may just pick up with you. And just, you know, you might just become a side thing, thinking you're actually in a relationship with the I'm just putting it out there.
You could accidentally become a side man or side chick.
Side chick, you know, because they know what they have now is good. Sometimes like they've got a bit of what you didn't have, but what the person they're with does not have what you have. So they want to complete the picture. So
they're trying to merge the two. So it's true.
So that's a huge risk.
You could end up in a situation where you're complementing.
You could become a side thing without knowing you're becoming a side thing. Because they're just trying to spin the block. They want to. You see, they don't want to go all in with you while they're trying to kind of see if. Exactly.
They don't want to go all in with you, but they don't want to break off what they have. So for sure. So how can you go back to an ex if you really, really want to? So what steps can you take to initiate this? How can you even go about it, in your opinion?
In my opinion, the first thing to do is check where they're at. If they're in a relationship already, leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Leave it alone. Step far, run away.
Run.
That's the first step.
And
then the second step is obviously you've got to do the whole thing all over again.
You think so?
The wooing. Is it what it's called?
Is it wooing?
Is it wooing? What is it?
It's the courting. Say courting.
Courting. The hunting. No. Okay. Okay. The courting. You've got to bring that back again. So what you did to get her or him, her, because she's the prize in the first place. What you've done.
No, but it would also apply to a man, because if she's trying to get him back, you then need to woo him.
That's true. That is true.
You need to court her. You need to try and convince him, if that's what you're trying to do.
I know, but there's an issue there. If it's the woman that's trying to get the man back, that's a whole different ballgame. That's a whole different discussion.
Oh.
Yeah, because that's not right.
That's not right.
The dynamics of that is not right.
Why?
It's off balance. It's off balance. Mother Nature does not agree with that. And I think it will shift the dynamics of the relationship going forward.
Speak on it.
So I wouldn't, that's why automatically I was like, you know.
I'm literally picturing it as you're saying. I'm like, that is a whole different dynamic. It does flip the dynamic.
It does flip it, because
now you don't even know if he's just entertaining you because he wants some entertainment.
Yes. So
because you're trying to get him back, and so he's like, oh, let me just spin the block, because this one, she won't leave me alone.
So that's how side chick can be created. So it needs to be him. So I will make the reference to him getting her back. So if he's trying to get her back, then he needs to do the whole courting thing all over again.
Oh my word, but this flips this whole episode, because this is what we were saying. When is it not okay to go back to an ex? And maybe this is why I was saying, for me, it's a no. Because even if he's trying to get me back, though, it's a no. So it's not just me trying to go back to him. But I think...
But it needs to be from the man.
From the man. But at the same time, if it's me trying to go back to my ex, I will have to try and... I think we still need to advise women on how they can do it if they wanted to. And I think maybe it's more from a woman's perspective about being subtle. So you don't want to be clear that, listen, I'm trying to get you back. Because like you're saying, it flips the dynamic. It really does flip the dynamic. Like, it just does. I don't think that's a good position for a woman to be in.
And I'm sure there are subtle ways of checking if he's still interested.
Hey, big head.
Yeah, if he can, But you can. I'm sure there are ways you can show him that you are available, but not necessarily do the chasing. Do you understand? So,
well, tell me, what is this way? The girls want to know.
I'm not a woman. But
women want to know. No, but as a man, what could a woman do to show you that she's available? She wants to spin the block, but without you.
But an example, if she's checking what you're up to, you know, how your family, like she's basically trying to know what your current situation is.
That's right.
So as a guy, if a girl or woman is doing that, then be straightforward with her, be open about it with her, because but the thing is, there's an issue around, like you said before, keeping her on the side. In my head, it always comes back to that, because some guys, they play the field. Yeah. They will still go with the flow. Yeah. And, you know, do all of that. And then
they'll take what's for the taking.
They'll take what's for the taking, because they know you. They've been there before. They know how you are. They know. So it's a risk. It's a risk.
Yeah.
But there are also two ways of, like, you know, just, you know, because sometimes people do remain friends. They remain friends for a long period of time.
True.
Then they reconnect again. You know, just checking, you know, how things with you. You both haven't really moved on like that. Then it's like, you know, you can rekindle.
And I guess from a woman's perspective, even though I don't agree with, you know, the whole spin the block thing, from a woman's perspective, if I was to advise another woman, it is what you're saying. Be subtle. Find out what's going on with him, you know, whatnot. But I think that's all you can do, because I don't think you should do anything else, because that then, you know, it ruins your hand. As a woman, you need to protect yourself, because a guy will take what's for the taking. I always say that. But I feel like once he then comes forward and then he's like, okay, because obviously he sees that as a, you know, an invitation or maybe a possibility that if he then takes the hint and comes forward to try and rekindle, I think at that point, you then, as a woman, don't play games. Like, don't try and be like, yeah, well, and pretend like you weren't the one that was just checking for him.
Yeah.
At that point, that's when you want to come with the honesty. You want to, you know, say how you feel, say what you want this time round, and once he's come forward to make it clear that he wants you back.
But in doing that,
take
it slow. I would advise, because you don't want it to become a sexual thing. He's just come back and he wants things back to the way they were before, because some people, that's what's on their head, you know.
Yeah.
So take it slow. Check where he's at.
Yeah, 100%.
You have to, or else
do not initiate the intimacy too quickly. Yeah. You
know, whatever issues you had before, those are the things that should be in the forefront of the discussions. Those are the things that you should be talking about.
Yeah.
Like, right, if we're gonna make this work, this is how we're gonna do it. You know, it should not be the intimate part first, and then everything else falls following that.
Yeah,
it doesn't work.
Because I agree. But as a guy, I mean, you know, what did you do? What did you do to get me from dating someone else to being proper back in a relationship with you? I mean, put the young men on game.
Well, I started hunting again.
No.
But this time I was hunting one specific prey. You understand? I'm joking. No, but we spoke about it. But I had to show you that I was serious, right? I had to show you that I'm willing to make an effort.
Yeah.
That was important. For me, it was, we spoke a couple of times. I apologized. I expressed that I understood what had gone wrong, and expressed what I'm gonna do about it. So I was willing to change. So I think that was the key thing, and you could see that from my approach. I wanted you back. But
I think also, like, another reason why I was kind of convinced that this time will be different is because even though you were saying that, you know, I shouldn't have done this, like, I'm gonna do better on this, you had your steps. It was almost like within that first week, I could already see a different version of you. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like I got all this lip service. You told me all this stuff.
Yeah, there was action.
Yeah. And then we're like, all right, you know, I say like, okay, let's see how it goes, because I think that's what I said.
Yeah.
And then the next day, I've got the same Frank again, like the same behavior, not necessarily with the same issue, but literally like you're just exactly the same. That was not the case. I think when we got back together, I could actually see a maturity in you. There was like an actual change. Like, I would liken it to like a reduction of like the ego and pride. It's like I could already see that your ego and pride was like simmered just in the way we were with each other. It's like I could see you were being more vulnerable, you were being more real with me. Like there was not as much game, there was not as much, you know, vibrato. You would just kind of chill. And so that's another thing to look out for, you know, because men can sweet talk women. That's it. Actions. Women can sweet talk men, you know. So
actions has to match the words.
If they're saying, you know, I've thought about it, I'm too prideful, because we didn't even say what the issue was. It was something as simple as like you hanging up on me in arguments. That's what it was, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So you would hang up when we're in the middle of an argument and you're like, you know, whatever, I'm not talking. You just hang up. And to me, that was like incredibly disrespectful. And it was just like a big issue for me that just kept happening. And you had a lot of ego. I mean, obviously, you're 20-something-year-old man. You know, you can get other girls. So you had your own vibrato, you had your ego, you had your pride. And me being like, well, I'm not putting up with that, let's just forget it. And you being like, yeah, that's fine. You had to kind of reflect on letting your pride lead us to the point where we're not together. So there was an element of you kind of maturing in that time frame because you were looking at it differently. And so when we got back together, I saw that growth straight away, like in just the way you carried yourself, in how real you were being with me. Like if we got into like a little bit of a disagreement, I could hear you being more patient and being like, all right, Nuria, like, I think we should end the conversation, as opposed to you just getting heated. So I could already straight away see that you were trying to like manage our relationship from like lead it a bit more so that you can prevent yourself from getting to a point where you want to hang up. And because of that, that made me reflect on what I was doing. Like, okay, we talked about what I did that made you want to hang up as well. It wasn't just about you and you being wrong. And because I could see your growth, it made me like grow in how I was approaching you, addressing situations. And because of that, I feel like we kind of both put in the effort, but it started with your kind of, you leading the way. It started with seeing that you'd grown and you changed and you're dealing with things differently. So I mean, we digressed a bit because now we've just given like a whole backstory about what happened. But yeah, I think that was important. So I guess my point was don't just listen to the words and take the person back. Listen to the words, give it a trial run.
Watch
and be
out
like,
for actions.
And look at their actions. Are they the same? Are they still like egotistical and prideful? Or can you really see growth and maturity? And then look at yourself as well, you know. If you really want to get back with an ex, you really do need to think about, well, what was I doing? Do you know what I mean? What was I doing in this relationship that was not helping the situation?
Yeah, true. Yeah, you yourself have to reflect. As well. Yeah, I agree with that.
What? So your game to the young men is growth. Be real.
Be real. If you're in a situation where you're thinking, oh, you know, I really love my ex. Well, she's single. I want to get her back. Be very real. Don't waste time, because each passing day is an opportunity for someone else to get in there. It's for someone else to come in there, swoop her away, and she's no longer available. So be real. You know, you've got to do the work. You've got to do the work all over again. Sorry to say, you have to. You have to, because that in itself shows maturity. Shows that you value them. It's not a case of, well, we should get back together, let's just pick up, well, I'll meet you in thingy. And no. You literally start, go on a date. Like, start all over again. Yeah. So that would be my advice to the youngsters out there. If you're serious about someone and, you think, oh yeah, what you had was good.
It was special.
You can make it work. Make the effort.
Plan out what you can do differently this time round properly.
And express it to her. Even if you plan it out, show her your plan. Tell her about your plan. That would impress her. That will actually get her buy-in into it. So that this is what I was doing, but this is what I'm going to be doing from now on. Trust me, it make a huge difference.
It does. And I think, like we're saying, also our whole point on our, a woman shouldn't try and get a man back, blah, 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 is very generic, and it is very from our perspective. I just want to make it clear.
We're not saying women, girls, we shouldn't do that out there.
What Frank just said can apply to a woman as well. If you know you had a good man and he was really in love with you and he really put in work in that relationship and you're the one that's messed up and you want to be vulnerable and just go back to him and be like, you know what, give me another try. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not going to lie. I think the same thing that we're saying for men could apply to a woman if you know the dynamics of your relationship.
Yes.
Now, if you know you've got the kind of man that will take that opportunity and you know the person you were dating, if you know they could take that opportunity and use you or take that as opportunity to get you back in terms of like actually payback, revenge, then don't do that. Because you need to know the person you're with. Like, I think that as a woman, it only works if you're with a certain type of guy, and he has to be quite a mature guy, quite a real guy that doesn't play games. He will see the vulnerable position you are, and he won't take advantage of that.
That's true.
And you can actually go back and have a real relationship, then but only you know whether or not that's the kind of guy he is. And so from a woman's perspective, I wouldn't take that risk just because I don't like that, putting myself in a vulnerable position to that degree with an ex. Like I'm saying, I never liked the whole ex idea, but I think situations are different, and there could be a situation that calls for you kind of as a woman knowing that you've let a good man go and trying to get him back and knowing that he won't use that opportunity to like, you know, mistreat you, and you could end up actually having a truly great relationship. Then the same thing that Frank said applies. That applies. But so like, I mean, we've touched on the last point we wanted to touch on. What should the relationship be like when you get back together? And like we're saying, start from the beginning.
Yeah, you have to start from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like, you've got to make that effort. You've got to ensure that the things that you've said would change.
Have changed.
Yeah.
And like slow down on the intimacy, because obviously if you've been together before, you've probably been intimate before, so that might cloud things.
Yes.
Especially if you're very familiar with each other. You don't want to like speed ahead too quickly.
Yeah, and you don't want that to, like you said, cloud the situation.
Yeah, but
that becomes the main focus, because there could be red flags, but that is blocking the red flag because it's too sweet. You are chopping. You know, you're not focusing on that. This guy is not actually changing, or she's not actually changing. But you know
all good. It's all good.
The palm wine is sweet, so you just keep sipping on it. Yeah, you have to avoid that. Like, not avoid it, but just try not to make it about that.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
what else do we think
should be different? I would say everything should be different. It just needs to be
all the bad stuff.
All the bad stuff. All the good stuff should remain. No, obviously all the bad stuff should just there should just be, you know, you guys have to see it as a clean slate.
Yeah.
Like, you're coming at it like, right, you know. Like,
what should be different in the sense a clean slate? Like, you don't want to start. Don't bring up stuff that happened in the last relationship.
No. No. Like, it's a clean slate, start fresh.
Yeah.
Or else, there's no point. If you're gonna be tapping back into what's happened, no, forget it.
Yeah,
it won't work. Yeah.
I mean, if, for example, the reason why you broke up with them was because of the fact that they're consistently cheating on you, and it's been years, and you believe this person is changed. Maybe they found God and they're, you know, born again and they're completely different, and you're giving them that chance. You've chosen to give them that chance. Don't treat them like someone that cheats on you, because if that's the case, then you're saying that this is a new chance until they actually do cheat on you again, at which point cut it off straight away.
Yes. So you've got to give them the benefit.
You've got to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that is a fresh start. Now, this is different from advice that I've given previously in terms of if you are in a relationship where, to me, if you're staying in that relationship through something like infidelity and you're trying to trust through it, I think it's different, because it's that person's responsibility to build your trust. That's a different, that's not the same thing. So don't confuse what I said last time with what I'm saying now. They're completely different scenarios. In this scenario, you are going back to an ex who has convinced you that they've changed, and you're starting from a fresh clean slate.
Yes.
So you need to give that ex the benefit of the doubt, and you need to, they can't go back into a brand new relationship with you trying to build your trust. If that's the case, just don't go back with them.
I agree with that.
But if you're in a relationship and you're working through infidelity, that's probably a different story, even though I can't really speak to that too tough, but I guess to me, I'm like, wow, that's a different issue.
It is a different issue. And
yeah, but if you're taking an ex back, you're taking them back with almost like a new relationship. So you need to start from the ground up, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's our
take on it.
What else do you think we need to cover? I think that's everything.
I think that's it.
Actually, there's probably one thing I want to cover, which is make sure that your plans for the future are the same.
Yeah.
And it's not just about getting back in the relationship. It's kind of like what we were talking about with Ashanti and Nelly, where I'm like, I don't know if she wants kids. I don't know if she actually wants marriage. Maybe something that someone used to want when you were together is not what they want now. So you've got to recheck that kind of stuff, the values.
And alignment,
reassess that. Because if you're getting back together, surely it's because you want to be committed to each other. So does the plan for the future look the same? Is it different? What's going on there? So that's the last thing I think you definitely need to make sure you check.
That's a good one.
So that's it on this. We have a dilemma that we wanted to cover. We got a dilemma from a listener. So we're going to jump into that.
Okay.
So it's from a guy this time, which is really cool. Do you want to read this? Because it's from a guy.
Okay, I'll read this. The dilemma goes, hello guys. Here's the situation. I've been with my partner for several years and we've had some wonderful times together. We've supported each other through thick and thin and I truly care for her. However, lately I've been feeling like we might be growing apart. Our interests have diverged and we seem to be on different life paths. I'm worried that we're no longer as compatible as we once were. Compatibility. I have a work colleague. She's married, so it's truly platonic.
Okay.
But we seem to connect so effortlessly, and that's how it used to be with my partner.
Yeah.
I've tried to communicate my feelings to her, but every time I bring it up, it turns into a heated argument.
Dang.
And we both end up hurt. I am at a point where I'm not sure if I should continue trying to make it work or if it's time to consider moving on.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your perspective on this situation and any advice you might have. How can I navigate this difficult decision and potentially salvage what's left of our relationship? Or is it time to face the reality that it might be best for the both of us to part ways?
Okay.
That's a very...
Okay, so the key issues here are that...
things are not working out.
Yeah.
And...
feeling like they might be growing apart. It's hard to advise when we don't know in what areas they're growing apart, but their interests have diverged.
Yeah.
And he says, we seem to be in different life paths. I'm worried that we're no longer compatible. And then there's the work colleague who they connect so effortlessly. And then when he tries to tell her, they get into an argument.
Yeah. I guess if that can't be rectified, I don't see how it can work.
If what can't be rectified?
If the discussion that he's trying to have with his partner. Because he's trying to connect with her. He's trying to get back what he's getting from
the work colleague. He's trying to communicate his feelings.
He's trying to communicate. She's not communicating with him.
True.
Which is a big issue. And if that persists, then there's nothing you can do.
That's true. Okay, let's take each situation, because it seems like there's like 3 different issues. It's like the first issue seems to be where he says, lately I've been feeling like we might be growing apart. Our interests are diverging. We seem to be on different life paths. I'm worried that we're no longer compatible. Let's just address that issue first. Then we'll address the work colleagues, and then we'll address the arguments when they're communicating. So first of all, my opinion on the point about feeling like they're growing apart, I think that's what happens as you grow as human beings. When you're with someone for a really long time, you will experience different versions of them as time goes on. You're definitely going to see their interests change. And I experienced that with you. We've definitely experienced that. And it is hard because you feel like, oh, who is this person? Why are you becoming a different person? So first of all, on that point, I want to say that doesn't mean that your relationship is falling apart. And it doesn't mean that you're no longer compatible. What it does mean is that you need to spend more time getting to know each other. So this is why we talk about things like date night.
Yes.
And we talk about things like, quality time where you're just spending just the two of you, maybe not, it's not a date night, but going out and just like doing things together, you know, spending time on the sofa, just chatting, trying to initiate those kind of really alone time that's chilled. And that might be the reason, I'm jumping ahead a bit, but it might be the reason why when you try to communicate your feelings, it turns into an argument, because maybe she's taking it as criticism and she's seeing it as you're just complaining. So it's almost like more of that disconnect, as opposed to the connection. So it's like, instead of focusing on communicating how you're feeling in a serious way, because I'm guessing you're going to her and be like, listen, I'm starting to feel like we're different. She might even be reacting in terms of fear. Because she's like, no, well, why are you causing an argument to get the issue out of the way? You might want to just do stuff together, just spend time together, sitting together, you know, talk about things that have got nothing to do with that. And then in those conversations, find out what's changing about her or what her views are about this, and, you know, talk about it from that perspective. So on the first point, I think there is something around change is inevitable, and it's more about how you grow together and trying to...
It is.
Rather than not being compatible.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's about realigning your priorities and
and your interest.
I agree with the whole date night, or, you know, finding time together. Because when you make that effort, I think she'll be in a better place, in a place of listening to you, rather than just in passing. Like you said, you know, just
hearing
another complaint. Like,
have you ever felt like, and just to kind of elaborate on this for the listeners, have you ever felt like our interests were diverging and were becoming less compatible with me? And how did you kind of deal with that?
Yeah, I did sense that a little bit, like with finance at the beginning. Because obviously we had different views about finance and how we manage money and whatnot.
Yeah.
I did feel like that, but I think because everything else was aligned, I was confident that we can get through the whole financial situation, the whole having that difference, because everything else was aligned, because we spoke a lot. And because we've always had quite a few things in common. So every time we will be like watching a show or whatever, we'll have time to discuss things. And so I always felt like we communicated quite often. So, but the way I approached that was, you know, we would speak about money quite a lot. It felt like, although we had different approaches about money, but the ultimate goal was always the same. You know, at some point we always realigned and reconfigured and at the same place, you know, so it wasn't that much of a...
And we were always both open to listen to each other's points,
that's
and try and find the kind of...
That's really
find
important.
Where we are compatible.
Yeah.
But was there ever something that changed about me? Because I feel like with the finance thing, it's always been kind of the way I view money and the way I approach money. Has there ever been something where you're like, she never used to be like this and she's now changing? Like, what's happening?
No, I don't think there's been. I think I've always known how you were. Obviously, as we get older, things change. You know, it's just a case of you just kind of grow with that person. Once you accept that there will be changes, nothing else will faze you. That happens. So you just have to accept that I'm gonna change. You're gonna change. So when the change do come about, I'm not caught off guard to say, start thinking, she used to be like this, but now she's no longer like this. I just know that, okay, she's not feeling that anymore. She views this a bit differently. So let's talk about this. So when we have date nights, I will bring that up and say, right, you know, I've noticed that, and then we will speak about it.
Exactly. And I guess if you listen to episode 10 of season 1, where we talk about being in this together and we talk about date nights in detail. In that episode, we talk about what we do during date night. So it's not just like where we go on a date and we're eating food and we're just chatting. We actually have a structure where we talk about what's going on with each other and what's changing, what's going good, what's going wrong. It's our opportunity also to bring up any issues that we're having with each other that we don't want to, you might not want to bring up, like, you know, how you were saying when you try to communicate how you're feeling. this is the point we're making about environment, because we know date night is a no argument zone.
Yes.
So we're not there to argue. It's not about being defensive about something the other person's telling you. So anything that's said in date night is already got a different aura around it. And
I agree.
When we mention date night, we don't just mean going out on a date. And it's often a kind of date that allows you time to talk. Not the kind of date where you're playing bowling or something like that. We do a very like one-on-one kind of date. So yeah, if you had something like that, you could bring up this issue there, and it's in that kind of, I want us to get back to the place that we were at before.
Yes. What
can I do to understand you better? So yeah, that issue, that first part of the issue is not necessarily an issue if you approach it in a certain way. But I have to kind of do you justice and say like, it really does also depend on what's changing about them. So it's about, the level of change that's happening.
I agree.
The second point we should address is the point about having a work colleague who's married and is platonic, but you seem to connect so effortlessly, and that's how it used to be. I just want to point out that, when you have a work colleague, your relationship is so surface when you compare it to a partner.
I agree. I agree.
That work colleague, you're being each other's rock through a hard time at work. Yeah. You're both like, it's just such a positive environment. A work colleague, your support systems for each other usually. So that work relationship can be very, very warped, and you could be seeing a person who you think
like fantasy.
It's not you. If you get into a relationship with the person you're really hitting it off with at work, you'll probably find they're very different from who they are at work. But we actually have an episode in season 3 that we planned where we're going to talk about work relationships, work wives and work husbands. So stay tuned for that. But like you said, this person is married. You feel that it's strictly platonic, and so we'll take your word for it that it's just that. But I guess you're referring to the connection, and how effortless that is.
And I'm guessing that's what you are probably seeking from your partner.
Yeah. And that's what you're comparing it to in a way as well. So it's not easy because you're like, oh, we used to be like this. So why is it like that?
Yeah.
But yeah, like we're saying, work colleagues, it's not a good comparison for an actual relationship because it can be so surface, even though it can be deep at the same time. The circumstance itself makes it so different. So the point about communicating your feelings, like we said, we kind of touched on that. The date night.
The right setting,
The right setting. Use the right words. Instead of saying, I don't like how, try and say, I would like it more if we could. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't focus on the negative in your language. Or be like, it seems like nowadays we're constantly, no. Why don't you say, it would be so much better for our relationship if we could be more. So think about what you want instead of what you don't want. So
language is key.
It's really important, and like we're saying, try with the date nights, try with the chilled out environments. And then on your last point, is there anything else you wanted to bring up on the communicating?
No, that's it. Communication is key. It's really good that you are trying to communicate with her, but as we said already, the setting needs to be
right.
To be right.
Yeah. And then on the last point about how can I navigate this difficult decision and potentially salvage what's left in the relationship, well, we've given the tips on how to potentially salvage it. Also think about yourself as well. It could be that you've changed, and what's changed about you is what's making you feel like she's changed. So analyze yourself in that sense as well, and communicate with her. If you do think that, oh, actually, I've kind of changed in that I now don't like this, or I'm like this, try and make sure you communicate that change to her, because that could help her to know how best to deal with you.
Yeah, I agree.
So there is something there as well around you kind of thinking about yourself and being like, oh, well, maybe she's not noticing that I'm more like this now, and try and kind of make sure she's aware of that change. And, you say, is it time to face reality? And I don't think it is time yet until you've tried those things.
I agree.
But if you do, and it doesn't change, and you give it time and it doesn't change, and when I say give it time, if you did all these things and you were trying all of this for 6 months to a year, or maybe 6 months, a year might be a lot, but and it wasn't working, then maybe you do have to accept that. You can't just ignore what you're seeing and what you're feeling and everything else.
I agree.
But I think be honest with yourself. Make that conscious effort. Take the actual steps.
Yeah. And do let us know how it goes.
Touch back in and let us know, even if it's just in a DM, even if it's just by yourself. So that is it for today's episode. That was Spin the Block.
That's it.
So that's it, guys. You've heard our views on if, how and when you should spin the block or go back to an ex. We've touched on whether or not we think it's okay to ever go back to an ex. We've also explored the benefits and potential risks and disadvantages of going back to an ex. And we've given you some tips on how you could actually initiate this if that's something that you wanted to do, and highlighted what should be different about your relationship when you do go back to an ex. So hopefully you've gotten some good stuff out of that. We really hope you tune into the next episode, where we'll be discussing liking and commenting on other people's social media posts while you're in a relationship. We don't know what we're going to call it, but we're going to be discussing that. So tune in for that. Don't forget to email us any of your questions, comments, or dilemmas at itt.thepodcast@gmail.com, or send us a DM on Instagram at ITT Podcast, all one word. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we'll speak to you on the next one.
Bye.